Welcome to Heavy Metal WRX. My name is Waze, and today, finally, I've gotten a chance to check out the WRX TR. And I want to give a big thank you to Sunset Hill Subaru, who's actually my dealership here in St. Louis. And some of you actually already know what that dealership is because you've actually been there and gotten your cars from there. The reason I actually chose this dealership was actually I bought both of my WRXs from here. And, you know, not throwing a lot of shade, but I've been to a lot of dealerships in St. Louis, and yeah, it was never really the great experience. So I've always liked this dealership. So I'm really thankful for them to actually give me the opportunity to work with them. So not only am I going to be bringing the TR, but I'm actually going to be looking at other cars over there as well. So there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff that they're going to be able to help me out with, and I'll be able to help out as well. Before we get started, I want to give another thank you to Robert, who actually is the media personnel over at Sunset Hill Subaru. He's actually helping me record this today, which, as you guys know, I literally never have a camera person. So this is quite exciting for me. So I want to jump into this. You guys, if you've been following the channel for any good amount of time, you know that I've already made quite a few videos on the WRX TR. I first saw this way back in October last year at SubiFest Daytona. Unfortunately, Bucky and Travis didn't let me drive it, but I got a chance to ask a lot of really interesting questions. Mainly, did we get a new transmission? The answer is, if you've seen other reviews, you know that that's not true. It's still the old TY75 from the old WRX. The power hasn't changed. The things that have changed are a lot of the complaints that people had with the car, which was the numb steering feel, the fact that it felt a little soft in the suspension department, and the brakes weren't that great. Now, you have to admit, Subaru did answer those questions with very valid answers. They retuned the steering wheel. The suspension dampening is tightened up a little bit, and we have 6-pot Brembos. Now, there is another thing that actually has changed on this car that's not visually apparent, which is the structural changes to the rear. Now, this is something that is actually going to be on all of the cars besides the TR because it is the global platform. And so the rear, I know Subaru actually posted pictures and videos of this, so you'll see what I'm talking about here, is in the back, underneath the floor and in the doors, they actually reinforced it a little bit more, probably more for safety reason, but for us who like to go to the track and autocross, any extra metal for rigidity is a good metal. So now, tires have been something that have always been an issue with WRXs. Usually the STI tends to get the nicer tires. Now, this year, or at least from 2022 to 2023, the WRX did get the 600A GTs, Dunlops, which used to come on the S209 STI, which actually were quite good. Now, the old Supermax GTs weren't so great. So now instead, we have 19-inch tires and 19-inch wheels, and they actually picked up the Bridgestone S007s, which a lot of people say these are the tires that come on Ferraris, but I don't know if it's the exact same tread pattern. I wouldn't imagine Subaru's buying Ferrari tires to put on them, but they're supposed to be a lot better than the older ones. And of course, you do have the 19-inch wheels. I don't know if these are forged specifically, but when it comes to opinions, personally, it's a little too many spokes for me. I actually found the 15 to 21 WRX Premium probably had like the best looking wheels, even like the base model and the Premium. It's a little too busy for me. But if you look behind the wheels, now we do have 6-pot STI style Brembos and larger drilled rotors. Now, I don't know the exact dimensions, but they are larger, obviously in this case to be housed in the 19-inch wheel, and of course a 6-pot. Now, if you're looking at how much space there is inside of the wheel, there's actually a decent amount of space between the caliper and the wheel. Obviously, Subaru does love their 55 offset wheels, so if you're not sure if your wheels will actually fit, because I would imagine if you're getting a TR, chances are you're probably not going to keep these wheels. So there's enough clearance for the Brembos to be cleared as well. Okay, because of the size of the brakes changing, Subaru did increase the size of the brake master cylinder. Now, this is something that is also trickled down to more than just the TR. I believe this is actually on the base and the Premium and the Limited. So if you are now getting a brake upgrade, that's one less thing you really have to worry about. Now, some of the people have been putting STI Brembos and others, I think like TDMI, Rotora, on base and Limiteds and all that stuff without changing the size of the brake master cylinder. So I'm not exactly how much of a difference that'll make, but if you're getting a 24, at least that's one less thing you have to worry about. All right, now looking inside the car, there are some really interesting changes that have been carried over from the Limited and some that have been brought in from the GT. Now, obviously this car, all 2024s will now have eyesight. So that's something that is in this car. That's not something that we're going to test today, but maybe in the future that may be something I could test. But the interesting things are what they have changed is the turn stock is no longer just the one touch. It does have the one touch functionality, but you can actually like flick it down and flick it up like a regular turn stock. I know this has been a huge thing. And actually just last week, there was a whole conversation on Facebook about like why it's good and why it isn't good. I'm glad that this is happening. A lot of people were not a fan of it because Subaru has never really had that in any of their cars until recently. So it was a shock for a lot of people. Now, what's even more important, the thing that I'm geeking out about is you guys all know that it took almost 1.5 years for us to have full screen Android Auto in this cars. But the 24s confirmed do have wireless Android Auto, and it is full screen, and I am incredibly jealous about this. Now, what's going to be interesting is it going to be possible for us to find a wrecked TR, you know, God forbid somebody wrecks their TR, but like, can we find these on the used market and just swap this panel out for, you know, with the panel that is in our 22s and 23s? Because obviously I would love to have Android Auto. So that is an incredible feature. There is actual Alcantara in here. The Limited does come with that. There is no moonroof. So that's the thing about the TR. So the moonroof has been deleted, but you do get the Harman Kardon sound system, and you do get the Alcantara. And I gotta say, last week or 2 weeks ago when I did the review of the GT, my biggest, the thing that felt the best was the fact that we had Recaro seats in there. And these seats are so great. The passengers are manual, but like the driver's side is, it's automatic. But one thing I noticed that it still doesn't have, unless I missed it somewhere, I didn't feel any like lumbar support button anywhere. I know people have told me that the Limited does have lumbar support, but if it does, I don't know where it's at. If you need that and it's important to you, that's something you want to think about. It is important to me, and the fact that I don't have it in my WRX, it does kind of suck. A really cool feature that we have right now, the back of my WRX, the premiums, I don't think they come in the base, but the premiums actually do come with two 2.1 amp USB-Bs, but here, as you can see, there's a USB-B and a USB-C plug, and in the front also, instead of having two USB-Bs, we actually have a USB-C and a USB-B, which is amazing for a lot of people, obviously, as more and more charging companies or more and more phone companies are not including regular USB cables. They're just using like USB-C on both ends. This is a really nice feature, especially if you have kids. As you guys know, I do, and I usually plug up my daughter's tablet back here. So that's a nice feature to have. So as everything that I've seen on this car, this WRX is, I still feel like, the best version of the WRX you can get. Now, I did actually drive this car over here, and the steering has changed considerably. As you guys know, when I drove that GT, one of the things that I noticed about the steering was when you put it in Sport Sharp mode, it does feel really, really good compared to the loose steering wheel that we have. Now, if maybe you don't remember, but a couple of months ago, we actually went on a subscriber drive in this really awesome windy road down the street, which we're actually going to take this car on. Now, I see the power didn't change, so going fast isn't really the importance here. They changed suspension, the steering wheel, and the brakes is really what we're going to feel today. So what's really interesting about this is I was driving here we were actually driving here on the highway. Oh, also, this is Robert, by the way.
What's up, guys?
He's been helping me record the video today. People talk smack about the eyesight system, but realistically, this is still really useful for a lot of people, because when I was just driving on the highway with the eyesight on, it does have the automatic steering wheel control. So you have the adaptive cruise control, you have the lane keep assist, and like, I'm not saying the car is basically going to drive you home, but I mean, like, look, there are days when you're leaving work and you're really tired, and there are days where you don't want to drive. You want to just have fun, or sorry, not have fun, just relax. And this is a really good way to do that. Now, the eyesight system, as we've seen in the automatics and stuff, you can turn all of this off, and really, it's only active, especially like the auto off and all that stuff, is only active at like a certain speed. So when you're at the track, like, it's not gonna, you know, the car's not going to like randomly stop in the middle of you driving on the track. So like, that's something that people really have to just understand. They would never build a system that would do that. Now, another thing that I noticed is the steering wheel is it's a lot better. And I can tell just by when I was driving in a straight line, my steering wheel, even from the very beginning, was a little loose. I always found that to be unusual. And here, this is a really fun little twisty road that we're going to go down on. It's not super fast, but it gives the opportunity to really feel the suspension, because I couldn't really feel it when we were driving on the highway. You can't really tell, but I mean, it obviously compared to coilovers, this is really soft and a lot more comfortable. But like overall, they stiffen it up a lot. Like it is noticeable compared to like when you're driving, if you drive like a 22 or a 23, even right now, like this is, it's pretty good. And the brakes, look, they're not OEM pads. They are Brembos, and they're pretty sure these are the same ones that came in the 21 WRX performance package, or I think it was like the 19 performance package. And like they feel great. I mean, there's no, you know, they're large 6-pot Brembos. The car is gonna stop, right? That's the thing. And even just right now, there's no like extra minute adjustments you need to do on the steering wheel.
It feels like the steering wheel's pretty responsive too.
Oh yeah, dude. It was like, it's already a pretty responsive steering wheel from the old one, because they made it like dual electric pinion. So like but because of that, it got a little softer. Whereas like right now, it's more noticeable when you're driving in a straight line. Even if you move it like a little bit, the car wouldn't move. But even now, like I move it a little bit, the car is moving left and right. You can feel the slight bit. If we go ride in my car and I do the same thing, the car is still going in a straight line. And for a performance vehicle, that doesn't feel good. And that's like the number one complaint that people have. Now, have you driven a lot? Have you driven any of these WRXs yet?
I have, yeah. And I've noticed I haven't driven the TR yet, but I can already tell the responsiveness in the steering and with the brakes and everything like that. I mean, look at that. That's just it's impressive.
Yeah, and it should be. You know, there's like $5,000 brakes.
Yeah,
and you know, and we've talked about like, you know, is it worth having, you know, buying this versus just buying a base and building your own. And I actually plan on making an extra video about this, because somebody did bring this up on Facebook as well, because they are quoting about, I think it's like $5,500 if you want all of the parts to do on your WRX, because you do need to change the knuckles, and obviously you are getting the brakes, and the rotors are larger and stuff like that. And I still don't know if it is worth it to, I don't know, because I'm torn, because the price that I was able to find was like very close. One of the videos I made earlier, I actually priced out how much it would be to make a TR if you bought a base. And I think the price was like about $1,000 difference. The difference here is, you know, everything is going to work. And at the same time, even if you are planning on changing the tires or the wheels, it's still, I mean, that's going to cost you. Obviously, that you might as well just add like an extra $1,500. Also, I do want to say these tires are amazing.
Yeah, they are. I mean, God,
these are really good tires.
Plugging these turns.
Yeah.
On that note too, another thing, even if it's $1,000 difference, nowadays time is money. So you're saving time just by having it already installed on the vehicle too. And like you said, you know it's gonna work, and it's covered under warranty, which I think is a good selling point.
My thing is, if you are mechanically inclined, maybe going with a base is a better option for you. Right? You can do all your work at home. You save that money. You buy, especially if you buy stuff off the used market. But if you, and I mean this with no offense, as I'm going to be 40 in like a year, right? If you're an older gentleman or older gentlewoman and you want to buy a car that has stuff in it already, and you don't want to pay somebody to do any mechanical work, and you don't want to do it yourself, this is a great option for you, right?
Yeah.
It is still about the same weight as a Limited, so it's not that much heavier, not like the GT. And if you want something manual and you want all of the fun parts in it, like if you want to go straight from the dealership to autocross, this is the car. This is the WRX to do it in.
It is.
You know, I've done autocross on my WRX on stock suspension and stock tires, and then I did it again on my coilovers with my aftermarket tires. And yeah, there's a big difference, but the stock suspension, even before the dampening changes they made on this and the spring rate changes they made on this, is still really, really good. You know, and I think it's all because of the chassis. Obviously, this is not a car that we can really rip on, but it feels a lot more planted than obviously a VA WRX. So if you're thinking about coming from an older WRX, regardless of whether you get a 22, 23, or 24, you're going to drive this, you know, and it is going to surprise you how well it handles, especially because everybody thinks it's so much bigger. Like, we're only going maybe like 35, 40 around these turns.
But it's hugging these turns.
Oh, yeah. Just so well. And as you can see, eyesight isn't kicking on at all. As it shouldn't.
And on eyesight, too. And it really is impressive to think that eyesight is available now with a manual, because you can't usually get them
That's
in
right.
a manual. And, you know, for the casual, you know, driver who it's their everyday driver, but they want to have a little fun on the weekends, this would be the option for you, because you get all the safety features, you get eyesight, but it's also kind of track ready too. You can go from street to track seamlessly.
Yeah. And that's what the guy, I think it was Bob, I know Subaru isn't specifically calling it that, because it's the old TR was tuner ready. This is not. This is track ready. And it is apparent. Like, yeah, people will say, oh, well, it doesn't have the power. Okay, get yourself a cop. Get, like, even if you don't get any hard parts to it, you know, just get a tune. You'll be at like 300, no problem. You know, put some ethanol in it, you'll be maybe at like 320. That's all you need. You don't need any more hard parts on this car if you are just wanting to get this and just stick with, you know, with the way the car is. It's still really good. And I mean, this,
I have to admit, it's for stock. I mean, I feel like I'm in a rally car right now.
Yeah, basically.
Just the way that it hugs these turns, the acceleration. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and we're driving through like these tiny Missouri woods. Yeah. It's really good. And I had a feeling it was going to be. And, you know, I try to come at this with like the minimum amount of bias. And you guys have known, I made a lot of videos trying to compare this to like the Elantra N, you know, compare it to the Civic Si. Now, this does put it into a different price bracket. You know, we're looking at $41,000, $42,000. To be fair, I have a feeling a lot of the reviewers are going to do what they did with the WRX in the beginning and say, oh, it's not really that great. Just buy a Type R or buy a Golf R. And what's going to end up happening is the MSRP of this is going to go down. You will be able to get this. And actually, already, somebody bought one of these in California for $1,500 under MSRP. That puts it very close to 40 and even closer to 39, which is basically what a limited is. Try to get one of these. I thoroughly think if you're not going to mod it yourself and you still want those parts, this is the one.
This is the option, definitely.
Plus, these tires are like really good. Anybody that was complaining about the 17 inches, keep an eye out for anybody who's going to be selling these buying these cars and selling the wheels and tires on Facebook Marketplace. Oh man, this is a good one. Because already you can get like, so what people do is almost everybody I know has always just like changed their wheels and changed their tires. Everybody thinks that like the stock OEM tires are not great. They didn't used to be. But the new ones they put on the premium and the limited for the 22, 23 are actually really good. That's like $400 a tire. People sell them all four for like $300-400 on Marketplace. That's a really good deal.
I think it's testament to Subaru listening to their customer base and actually coming up with a solution to satisfy the customers who are into, you know, taking it on a track, or off, you know, on like a rallycross type trail.
Or even just doing this.
Yeah, just even just casual drive.
If you have a fun drive home from work, it's, you know, it's definitely going to put a smile on your face. Like, this is, like, I'm enjoying this. I do this every day. I always take the long way home from work anyway, if I can, and I have a blast. I freaking love it. Now it's going to be a little different because I'm going to be driving through the dirt. I'm going to be just driving through fields. Dude, these brakes, you have to apply, like, no pressure at all in the car. It stops. All right, so we're back at the dealership, and I gotta say, the drive was actually really good. I've been talking about this car for months now, and I already expected it to be quite good of a drive. But the fact that it is even better than what I expected is a little surprising. Now, the steering wheel is a lot tighter. It's still not quite as tight as when the GT is in Sport Sharp mode, and I can actually tell, but it is much tighter than if you have a 22 or a 23, whether it's base or limited. The tires are amazing. The brakes, of course, fantastic. But the thing that I want to talk about most is we didn't really touch that much on the eyesight. And when I was driving on the highway, just cruising, it was kicking in, whether it was the lane assist or if it was the steering wheel trying to put me in the right direction. But what was interesting is when we were driving around on that back road, even if I was getting a little close to the left or the right, as long as I had higher speed and higher RPM, the eyesight, even though I didn't turn off anything, never kicked in, which is what everybody was saying and was Subaru's thing as well. Like, just because it's there and you are doing spirited driving, it's not just going to kick in and keep you from driving the way that you want, which I thought was very interesting. I purposely left it on because I wanted to know if it was going to actually be an issue, and thankfully it wasn't. Now, I still maintain this is the best WRX that Subaru has ever built, and that's because we have the better suspension, we have the better steering, and we have the brakes. Now, when the original 22 came out, these were the complaints they had, and you got to admit, Subaru did listen. And if you're really lucky, you can probably get a TR for under MSRP, just like the 22s and the 23s when they first came out. So try not to think too much about the eyesight or anything else, and just give it a shot. All right. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.